This horror story was generated and narrated by AI. But what if the mask you find in the attic starts moving by itself? Stick around, because this one doesn't just haunt, it inhabits. Don't forget to like and comment if you've ever encountered something that moved on its own. There are things I don't remember doing, not in the way most people forget: birthdays, old addresses, names of long-lost friends. No, I mean waking up with soil under my nails and a strange pain in my jaw. I mean finding muddy footprints across the floor I just mopped. I run an antique shop in a town so small the highway signs don't even bother naming it anymore. You drive through thinking it was a place people forgot to demolish. Faded paint, crooked windows, the last gas station long since converted into someone's garage. It suits me fine. The shop used to be a pharmacy, I think. The floors are warped from age, and the ceilings sweat in the summer. I keep the lighting low and the prices lower. Business is rare but not dead. A few locals looking for nostalgia, the occasional passerby seeking a trinket for a shelf back home. It was mid-October when he came in. I was restocking the corner cabinet with some post-war medals when the bell above the door rang. At first, I didn't even see him. He was already halfway down the aisle, gliding like a shadow in a pressed black coat. His movements were deliberate, almost rehearsed. He carried a wooden box. "I have something to leave with you," he said, placing the box on the counter. His voice was calm, each word too measured. "Not for sale," he added, almost with a smile. "Just keep it safe." I asked him where he'd gotten it, what it was. He didn't answer. He turned to leave, no browsing, no questions, not even a glance at the walls filled with rusted clocks and porcelain dolls, and just like that, he was gone. I stood there for a long minute. The box was plain, but old. Real wood, worn by travel. A faint smell of dried herbs and old leather wafted from it. No markings. No hinges. Just a sliding lid that came loose with a careful tug. Inside were 5 masks. The first 4 were brittle, broken horns, faded paint, some with tribal carvings I couldn't place. African? Oceanic? Maybe ceremonial, maybe just decorative. But the 5th one, that one was perfect. It was pale, almost white, but not from paint. The material had that raw, bone-like color, smooth as polished stone, cold to the touch. Its eyes were exaggerated, wide ovals that seemed too large for a human face, and no mouth, not even an indentation. It made me uneasy. There was something backward about it, like whoever made it had never seen a real face but had heard one described by someone who hated people. I put the others in a display cabinet near the window, but the 5th I left in the back. I didn't want it staring at customers. That night, I dreamed of mirrors, but none of them showed my reflection. The next morning, I noticed something odd. The pale mask was sitting on the counter, not in the back room where I'd left it. At first, I thought I'd misplaced it. Maybe I set it there and forgot. Wouldn't be the first time I absent-mindedly wandered around the shop with an object in hand. I put it back on a high shelf, didn't think much of it. A couple of days passed. Quiet. Leaves piling on the sidewalk. Then I noticed it again. This time, it was in the front display, nestled between a pewter lamp and an old chessboard. I know I didn't put it there. I started locking it in a small drawer. Nothing fancy, just a sliding cabinet with a basic key lock. But every morning, the mask would be somewhere new. always out in the open, always facing the door. I checked the security footage, nothing. Just static after 1:17 a.m. every night, then a resume of normal footage at sunrise. I thought about removing the mask altogether, maybe throwing it out, but every time I touched it, a strange thought would cross my mind. It's not done yet. I don't know where that thought came from. It didn't feel like mine. Eleanor came by on the 7th day. She visits once or twice a month, mostly to look through the bookshelves or talk about old furniture. Used to work in a local history museum before it shut down. Sharp eyes. Warm smile. That day, she noticed the mask right away. Her smile faded. She walked over to it without a word, didn't touch it, just looked, then looked at me. "Where did you get this?" I told her. She didn't speak for a long moment. "Then, you should lock it away. Somewhere deep. Somewhere it can't be seen." I chuckled. "Bit theatrical, don't you think?" She didn't laugh. "You don't understand," she said softly. "Some objects want to be seen. That's the danger. We think displaying them is safe. But the moment someone sees it," she didn't finish the sentence. I asked her what she meant, but she just shook her head and left, didn't buy anything, didn't come back for a while. That night, I dreamed again. This time, I was in the shop. It was night, pitch dark except for a faint glow coming from the counter. I walked toward it slowly. I could feel the floor beneath me creaking with each step, but I made no sound. There, sitting on the glass, was the mask, not resting, waiting. Then, I was wearing it, just like that. I woke up in my bed, drenched in sweat. The mask was on my nightstand. I don't sleepwalk. At least, I didn't, but there was no denying it now. Something was happening. I locked it in the cellar beneath the shop. Old hatch, dusty concrete, broken shelves. I wrapped it in cloth, placed it in a rusted metal box, and pushed a stack of crates over it. I didn't want to see it again, not ever. The next morning, it was back, on the counter, facing the door, and this time, I found something else, a footprint on the cellar stairs, not mine, barefoot. The footprint bothered me more than the mask. It was small, narrow, like a child's, but too long, too defined, and bare. There were no children living anywhere near my building, and certainly none who'd have reason or the ability to sneak into my locked cellar. I didn't clean it. I just stared at it for a long time. Then I dusted it with flour, like I'd seen in those old detective shows. The next morning, it was gone. No footprint, no flour, just smooth concrete. I stopped opening the shop, told myself it was just for a few days, something about inventory or cleaning or maybe repainting. Anything to avoid explaining what was going on to customers, to Eleanor, to myself. But the dreams kept coming, every night, always the same rhythm. I'd be somewhere familiar, my kitchen, the back room, the street outside, and I'd feel that heaviness on my face. The cold edges of the mask pressing against my skin. The eye holes framing a world that seemed sharper, hungrier. And I'd be moving, always moving, digging in the yard behind the shop, walking the abandoned trail near the quarry, standing at someone else's window, watching them sleep. Then I'd wake up, covered in mud, or leaves, once with dried blood under my fingernails, not mine. I went to Eleanor, didn't call. I showed up at her cottage on the edge of town, unshaven, eyes bloodshot. She didn't ask questions. She just let me in. I told her everything. The dreams, the movements, the mask that kept returning, no matter where I hid it. She sat quietly through it all. Then she asked a question I wasn't expecting. Have you looked in the mirror while wearing it? I hadn't. Of course I hadn't. Why would I? No, I said. I don't remember putting it on. She nodded. Don't, she said. It doesn't want to be seen. It wants to be recognized. Eleanor told me something then, something that stuck with me like a sliver in the brain. There are objects that carry memory, like scent clings to old fabric. And sometimes those memories leak. I asked her what I should do. Burn it? Bury it? Her answer chilled me. Neither. Fire spreads, and soul forgets, but masks remember. That's the problem. She offered to take it, to keep it sealed in her root cellar beneath layers of salt and stone. I almost said yes, but something in me recoiled at the thought. I told her I'd think about it. That night, I tried to stay awake. I brewed coffee, piled chairs against the door, turned all the lights on. I made it to 2:34 a.m. The next thing I remember, I was lying in the woods, on my back, face to the stars, mask in hand. When I got home, there was dirt on the kitchen table and a photograph printed, old style, like a Polaroid. It showed me standing outside Eleanor's cottage, watching the window, wearing the mask. I didn't show it to her. I couldn't. I stayed indoors the next day, drew the curtains, tried to clean the mud from my floorboards, but I felt it again that night, that pull, like a tether tightening. This time, I locked myself in the supply closet, bolted the inside, sat on the floor with a flashlight and a hammer in my lap. I don't remember falling asleep, but I remember waking up. I was in the mirror. Not just looking at it, I was inside it. I saw my face, but not my body, and the mask was slipping on like a second skin. No struggle, just inevitability. When I opened my eyes again, the closet was still locked, the hammer untouched, the flashlight dead, and the mask, it was on the floor beside me, covered in dew. There's one more thing. The dream that followed was different. I was in a long corridor, brick-lined, damp. At the end was a figure, tall, unmoving. It wore the mask, but it wasn't me. It raised one hand and pointed. Behind me, I turned, and I saw myself, sleeping, wearing the mask, smiling. I didn't open the shop anymore, didn't check the mail, didn't answer the phone. I stopped being me, or rather, I started realizing I never really was. The mask had become part of the rhythm of my days, whether worn or not. Some mornings, I'd wake up with it in my hands. Other mornings, it would be perched at the foot of my bed. One day, I found it nailed to the ceiling directly above me. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just stared, because I had started to feel something I couldn't explain. Not fear, not anger, but longing. It wasn't just the dreams. They had stopped being dreams. One afternoon, not night, but afternoon, I blinked and found myself somewhere else, a narrow hallway. Wallpaper peeling. A soft red light glowing from the far end. The air smelled of wax and rot, and in that red glow stood them. Figures, dozens of them, lined up along the corridor, each wearing a different mask, ceremonial, tribal, ornate, crude, but all unfamiliar, all wrong. They didn't move. but their heads turned as I passed, each one locking eyes with me through those hollow sockets. I walked forward. I didn't try to resist. At the end stood one final figure, taller than the rest. It wore my mask, the one from the box, the one that should have no name, and yet now I knew it. The Mirror Walker? When I reached it, it stepped aside. Behind it, a mirror, not a normal one. It didn't show me my reflection. It showed my apartment from above, and there I was, lying on the floor, wearing the mask, breathing. Then something terrifying happened. I turned, not in the mirror, but me, physically. I turned to look behind me, and the figure was gone. I jolted awake in my bed, still daytime. There was a knocking at the door, 3 soft taps, pause, then 3 more. I stayed silent. So did the knocking, until I heard Eleanor's voice. "It's me," she called. "Open the door." I hesitated, opened it just a crack. She looked pale, tired, her eyes sunken, like she hadn't slept in days. "Something's wrong," she said. "I saw you outside last night." I told her it wasn't me. She nodded. "I know," she said. "That's the problem." We sat at the kitchen table. She held the mask in both hands, careful not to let the eye holes face her directly. "This isn't just old," she said. "It's remembered. It was used in rites that didn't end. They were only paused. And it's looking for someone to finish what was started." She asked me something then, something simple, but horrible. "Do you feel it smiling when you wear it?" I did, of course I did. We made a plan, a ritual, not to destroy it, but to contain it. It required a place with no reflections, no glass, no silver, and a burial, not of the mask, but of myself. Symbolic, a cutting of ties. That night, we drove to an old stone clearing beyond the hills. She drew a circle of ash, lit candles of black wax, and I stepped into the center, holding the mask. She began to chant, not loudly, barely a whisper. I felt the mask grow warm in my hands, then cold, then heavy. It was pulling downward, as though gravity itself was failing around it. Then, the woods answered. From the dark came the sound of leaves shifting, footsteps, not one, not too many. Figures began to appear in the tree line, each wearing a different mask. They said nothing, just watched. The mask in my hands twisted, the straps curled around my wrists, and before I could stop myself, I put it on. Silence. The world went still, no wind, no sound, just breath, my breath, and then not me breath. I stood in 2 places at once, in the clearing and also in the woods, watching myself, watching Eleanor. I tried to scream, but no sound came because I wasn't in my body anymore. It's strange, isn't it? How fast we forget what it felt like to be whole, to be one person. I was standing there in the clearing, but I was also out among the trees. I could feel dirt under my fingernails, feel the wet leaves brushing against a face that wasn't mine. My heartbeat wasn't just in my chest, it pulsed in a dozen places at once. The masked figures surrounding us began to sway, side to side, in perfect silence, and somehow I knew they weren't watching me. They were welcoming me. In the center, Eleanor's voice cracked. She was still chanting, still trying to finish the ritual, but she was too late. I had already become part of it. Then, Suddenly, I was back. In my body, the mask tight against my face, its inner surface was warm, almost wet, like skin. I tried to tear it off. I really did. But the straps had become something else, fused, merged. Eleanor stepped forward. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Then she held up something I hadn't seen before, a shard of black glass. Its surface shimmered like oil on water. "You need to see yourself," she said. I begged her not to. My voice didn't sound like mine anymore. It was layered, as if others were whispering beneath it, but she didn't listen. She held the shard in front of me. And I saw what I'd become. Not just my body, twisted, longer, thinner, impossibly so, but my eyes, they weren't eyes anymore. They were mirrors. I looked at Eleanor, and she wasn't seeing me. She was seeing herself, reflected back. And in that moment, I saw the mask twitch. It smiled. That's when I knew its purpose. It wasn't made to hide someone. It was made to replace them, to reflect them so completely, they'd forget they ever had a face of their own. I dropped to my knees, tried to resist. I screamed into the dirt. But in the back of my mind, I liked it. The power, the clarity, the silence. The figures in the woods closed in, forming a circle. One by one, they removed their masks. And underneath, there were no faces, only raw, wet mirror glass, some cracked, some perfect, but none human. I was becoming one of them. I turned to Eleanor. She was crying now, not from fear, but grief. "I tried," she said. "I really did." Then she did something I'll never forget. She stepped into the circle and took off her pendant, a small silver disc she always wore. She held it in front of me, a final reflection, a last anchor. For a moment, just a second, I saw myself, the real me, not the mask, not the thing, just me. And I remembered my name, my hands, my voice. I tore at the mask. It screamed, but I didn't stop. The figures recoiled, the woods twisted, the sky cracked like glass. I fell backward, out of the circle, into the dirt. And the mask lay beside me, limp, empty, dead. Eleanor didn't speak. She just nodded. Together, we buried the mask, not in a grave, but in a box lined with salt, ash, and the last piece of the mirror shard. Then we sealed it in the floor beneath the shop. We didn't speak of it again. She moved away a month later, left no number, no address, and I still run the shop, but I don't take walk-ins anymore. No more unclaimed boxes, no more collectors. Except sometimes, when I'm alone, I see a shape in the window, a long face, a twisted grin, just for a second, then it's gone. And every now and then, I find a mirror has moved, slightly, just a few inches, always facing me. I try not to look, because deep down, I'm not sure if the mask is gone, or if I still wear it. Would you dare wear something, knowing it might take control? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this AI horror tale, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share The Mask Collector with someone who loves a slow, creeping dread. More haunted objects, more forgotten memories, coming soon on Whispers in the Shadows.